Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, and this is a podcast dedicated to you as an accounting professional to help you have the premier accounting firm in your area. It's for accounting, bookkeeping, tax, all those professionals that are actually interested in providing quality accounting services and getting paid what they are worth. It's in this podcast that we address issues ranging from marketing, selling, tech stacks, client services, client onboarding strategies, everything you need to do to work on your business and, in fact, be comfortable in what it is you're providing to your clients. And today we're going to have an excellent guest. This is someone that I've been looking forward to having on the show. It's Daniel Burrus. Daniel happens to be considered one of the world's leading futurists on global trends and disruptive innovation, who over the past 40 years has established a worldwide reputation for his exceptional record in accurately predicting the future of technology-driven change and is directed in the impact of and how it's affecting the business world. He is the CEO of Burrus Research, a research and consulting firm that monitors global advances in technology-driven trends to help clients profit from technology, social, and business forces that are converging to create enormous untapped opportunities. He serves on the Department of Defense Joint Services Futures Group and is a strategic advisor to executives from Fortune 500 companies, helping them to develop game-changing strategies based on his proven methodologies for capitalizing on technology innovations and their future impact. His clients include companies such as Lockheed Martin, Verizon, Microsoft, Visa, Deloitte, Google, KPMG, and FedEx. He is the author of several books. He has been featured on a number of shows, in fact, several PBS television specials, and has appeared on programs such as CNN, Fox Business, Bloomberg, and is quoted in a variety of publications, including Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Fortune, and Forbes. He is highly innovative. He is an excellent speaker and entrepreneur who has founded and managed 6 businesses, 4 of which are now national leading in their first year. So basically, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much.
This is going to be amazing. I know that technology is always a constant theme that people are intrigued by, especially now with all this Chat-GPT discussion and so forth. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation. But before we jump into all of that, I know that you have an excellent history, and I just want to give everyone a little bit of context of how you became a futurist and what that really means.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, in a way, anyone can be a futurist if you think about the future and perhaps make a prediction. Like you might say, we'll be building homes on the moon in 6 months. Well, you are now a futurist. However, if you want to get paid to be a futurist, you actually have to be right every now and then, right? And I've been doing this for a long time. And as you know, because I started out teaching biology and physics, so I share that just so you know I'm a science guy. Actually, I directed a research grant when I was an undergraduate. So really, I do a lot of research. And I came up with, over years ago, a methodology for helping to find certainty in an uncertain world. We'll get more into that in a minute. How to look at trends, and as you know, some happen and some don't, but to be able to separate the ones that absolutely will happen from those that might happen. And that really transforms how we plan, and it transforms how we innovate, and it can transform our results. So I'm sure all of those subjects are ripe for this. But let me make a statement right in the beginning.
Okay.
Right now, and I want everyone really listening to this right now. Right now, there is more opportunity in this field that you're in to not just change, but to transform every process and service and to increase its relevancy and to accelerate growth. And I know what you would say. Well, wait a minute. We've got headwinds economically right now. We've got all the political chaos here in the United States and other countries, by the way. We've got all of these problems, and we don't know what's going to happen with the stock market, home values, all of those uncertainties. And I would say, yes, I understand that, and I would repeat myself. So instead of listening to this podcast as you all have in the past, and then going back and getting busy doing what you've always done, I would like you to do something different right now. And I can't do it for you, but you can do it for yourself. We're at a unique point in human history. I would like you to make this podcast a defining moment for you personally and for your organization, for your firm. because you could squander this moment easily by just getting busy. I mean, hey, why didn't a cab driver think of Uber? Why didn't Marriott think of Airbnb? If as two quick examples. And of course, I know exactly why they didn't. They were busy doing what they've always done. So my fear for all of you is that after this podcast, you're going to say, oh, that was nice, and you're going to go get busy. And that would be squandering the moment. So I just wanted to open up with that and let us all see the good old days of our profession are not behind us. They're actually ahead of us, but they don't look like the days behind us.
Well, first of all, that challenge is an enormous challenge. I think it's just human nature to go back into what we're comfortable and familiar with. So I appreciate you starting with that. But it does beg the question, with death and taxes being certain, we sit here speculating as to what's going to happen in the future. And some of these things are, out of our control in the context of we're not programmers, we're not maybe the IT people that can perhaps automate some of these things. And we're dependent upon these third parties to introduce into the industry this technology, these skills and services. So what you're talking about is being at least forward thinking enough to apply these things into our business, and at the same time be innovative enough to see how they can help our clients. How can people anticipate this change, plan for that disruption, and leverage it to where they can actually financially benefit from it? You spoke of your methodology earlier. That might be a way of ascertaining what's coming, but how do you define or identify it and then go even a step further and incorporate it into your life?
All right, well, a couple of key things, because there was quite a bit in that question. So let me kind of unpack that a little bit, because it was all good. And first of all, we live in a technology world for sure, but you know what? We live in a human world, and in a human world, and that's not going away. Relationships are number one. As a matter of fact, one of my number one certainties is the future is all about relationships. By the way, so is the past. And relationships can be good or bad. And whether it's a good relationship or not depends on the level of trust. So what you want to be able to do is elevate trust whenever possible. Because when you lose trust, you can lose the relationship. And no matter how good your technology is, you're going to be in trouble. So I just wanted to get that up front. We are in a human world. You mentioned Chat-GPT. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But someone asked me in an interview recently, they said, well, will white collar workers, will humans get replaced by AI? And I said, well, what's going to happen is humans will get replaced by humans using AI. In other words, we aren't getting rid of the human part. What we need to do is just like in the year 2000, none of us were using smartphones, didn't have one yet. Apple hadn't introduced it yet. But now I would suggest, well, you're all using it. And I'd suggest something else. Probably none of you listening to this really know how that smartphone works, regardless of the brand. You don't need to know the physics of the tool in order to use it. You need to know that it exists, and then you need to be able to apply it to what you do. And you don't need to be a technologist, an IT guy to be able to do that. Hey, look, I know people that can pick up a smartphone and make a call and lose $1 million. I know people that can pick up a smartphone, make a call, and make $1 million. The difference isn't the phone. It's what you did on that phone. And that still comes to us and our awareness of the tools that are out there. So now to answer another element of that great question that you asked, because again, there were several keys to that. And that is that, look, there's no shortage of trends. And as you said very well in the beginning, the only thing you can be certain about is death and taxes. And I would say, first of all, no, there is an amazing amount of certainty out there. Because if everything is uncertain other than death and taxes, you will not make bold moves. You will hold back. And that's why a lot of us are having a wait and see attitude about where we are now and all of the technology, or waiting for some other company to prove that it will work in accounting and finance. When in reality, then you're surely not going to be leading. You're going to be bleeding, because you'll always be on the back end. So how do we lead and not bleed? And again, what I'm going to show you exactly how to do that by using the power of certainty. I mentioned there's more than one or two certainties, death and taxes. Do we know after spring what will come next? Of course, that's because there are cycles. The stock market goes down. Will it go down forever? No, it'll go back up. Will it go up forever? No, it'll go back down. By the way, that's a cycle. There are over 500 known cycles. By the way, in the tax business, do we know when tax time is? Yeah, exactly. So we know there are these cycles. There are biological cycles, there are economic cycles. By the way, there's even sales cycles. By the way, I like to have the sale completed before the cycle begins. Now, my point there is you can use cycles to your advantage if you think about it. But there is another kind of change that economists really have no training in. And that's what I want to talk about today to help you all out. Because I think you all have cyclical change down quite well. By the way, have you noticed the economists have been increasingly wrong? Why? They do not understand this other kind. And I would call it linear in that it's not a cycle / exponential, because it's being driven by exponential technologies that are doubling. 2 becomes 4 becomes 8. And as an example, once you get a smartphone, you're not going back to the dumb phone. That's not a cycle. Once the people in China park their bicycle and get a car, you know what? They're not going back to the bike. Once people in India get refrigeration for their home, they're not going to say we don't need refrigeration. These are one-way swings that are very predictable, and it gives us the ability to see problems before they happen and pre-solve them or let them play out. But it also gives us the ability to see opportunities. So what I'm getting at is there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of certainties. And now I'm going to come back to the statement I made about trends. There's no shortage of trends. That's why most of us don't bother looking at them, because some happen and some don't. Well, this is based on 40 years of research. As you mentioned in my introduction, the Department of Defense is using this. Big major companies from the Googles and others are using this. But because I have created a number of years ago the Anticipatory Organization for Accounting and Finance learning system, I've got hundreds of accounting firms, from the biggest to small, using this as well. And I want us to be able to use it. And here's what it is. All trends are either in one or two categories. Now, notice, Roger, I didn't say I'm the only guy that has the good trends, forget everybody else. No, I did not say that. What I said is, if you can separate the wheat from the chaff on a trend and put them into one of two categories, it's powerful. So the two categories, number one, hard trends. A hard trend is something that is based on a future fact. Now, here's what that means. It cannot be changed. So that's your litmus test. You ask yourself, can it be changed? If the answer is yes, it's not a hard trend. If the answer is no, you got a hard trend. And what a hard trend does, I'll give you examples in a minute. What a hard trend does is it gives you certainty. What it does is it lets you see problems before you have them, so you can pre-solve them. I mean, most of us wait till the problem happens. How many times have our listeners said, well, I knew that would happen? And I would say, well, then why did you let it? And then the other thing that a hard trend does is it lets you see disruption before it disrupts. And I'll tell you right now, the accounting firms that have been using my Anticipatory Organization system, they were ready for Chat-GPT and other things. Matter of fact, even the COVID, they were thriving during the time where others were scrambling because they were anticipatory versus reactionary. So there is hard trends based on future facts, and then there are soft trends. That's the other kind. And a soft trend is based on an assumption that may or may not happen. Now, I didn't say it won't happen, but there's a big difference between it absolutely will versus it might when it comes to building your strategies and planning for growth. Again, I'm going to give you examples in a minute. I just want to help you to see the two types. And so there's two things I'm teaching you right now that is the key to our discussion today. Number one, all trends are either hard trends or soft trends. They're either based on future facts or they're based on an assumption that may or may not happen. And secondly, here's the other big one. A trend by itself is boring. Yeah. Now, look, I'm Daniel Burrus. I've been doing this for 40 years, and I just told you trends are boring. And by the way, they are. They're academic until you attach an opportunity to it. The minute you attach an opportunity to a trend, it bursts into actionable life. So from this moment on, after this podcast, if someone's talking about a trend, you need to ask yourself, can it be stopped? Is it a hard trend or is it a soft trend? And what is the opportunity? And I love both. Why do I love a soft trend? Since that's not guaranteed to happen. Because if you don't like it, you can change it. That's the opportunity. You can change it to your advantage. Let me give you an example. And let's take healthcare costs in the United States. They've been going up, 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 up like crazy for a long time. By the way, that's a trend. Is the rising costs of healthcare, is that a hard trend, future fact, meaning unstoppable, or is it a soft trend? Well, most people, and this includes regulators and the government, they think it's a hard trend, unstoppable. Therefore, all of their strategies are around reforming how we pay for the mess the baby boomers will cause as they get older. But when we realize, wait a minute, that's not a future fact, that can be changed. We could use, for example, a healthcare version of blockchain to bring transparency to prices. We didn't realize that aspirin that you were going to get in the hospital cost $25. If you knew that, you'd have your spouse bring it. So once we have transparency and higher levels of trust, with blockchain can do, all of a sudden we'll see prices stabilize because we'll know more of what we're getting. By the way, there's already a $100 million startup for blockchain in healthcare. And that's just one quick example. So you don't like a soft trend, you can change it. A hard trend lets it, for example, let's take a look at Chat-GPT, which is under the big category of generative AI, one of the types of AI. And Chat-GPT, and a lot of schools are dealing with it now because kids are using it for their homework. New York Public Schools has banned it. As a matter of fact, I was just speaking a couple of weeks ago to 10,000 principals and superintendents of all the schools, talking to them about this. And so they're looking at, well, maybe we need to ban it because they're doing their homework with it. And I said, well, I remember when the calculator first came out, they wanted to ban that in schools too. And they wanted to ban using Google search in schools. I remember that as well. And if you ban it in school, what'll that mean? It means all the teachers will not learn how to use it, and all the students will go home and get really good at it, meaning big disconnect, and the teachers will seem irrelevant. Rather, what we need to do is use it as a tool to elevate our teaching. For example, giving them the higher levels skills. Now, I don't want to get into education too much right now, but my point is that is AI and generative AI, and especially tech like Chat-GPT, is that a fad here today and it'll be gone tomorrow? Or will it get predictably, hard trend, more powerful every year? I think everyone listening to this already knows the answer. Well, if it's something is getting more powerful every year exponentially, ignoring it is not a good thing. Rather, how can we use it to our advantage? So we've got hard trends and soft trends, and by separating those, you can see that. Now, I can give you some.
Before you do, Daniel, I want to jump in here because there's a few things that I want to cover.
Yeah, please.
Like my question, you've covered a lot of things in here that I think I want to digest or dissect a little bit here. So to go back, I want to revisit the fact that you first began by pointing out that there's a human component to all of this discussion. And that is something that's both a variable where we can argue whether or not someone is unique and ever-changing, or that history repeats itself. And as a human race, we have predictable emotional needs and so forth. So there's a lot to be said on the human side from a predictability point. You brought up, obviously, technology and how it doesn't necessarily eliminate people, but it does eliminate people that don't use technology. And I love that analogy because I think those in the accounting sphere that are quick to embrace the tools, the technology, the tech stacks that are out there we are more advantageous to the clients that we're servicing simply because we have these tools that we're familiar with and we're able to incorporate and help them utilize in their companies, and likewise in our own accounting firms. I liked how you talked about certainty being more than just death and taxes, and I'm glad you kind of honed in on that, because I'm very much of the proponent that there's a lot of certainty in life, and I appreciated your example of like tax day and so forth. There's a lot more certainty, and once you recognize that certainty exists in your life, you don't feel so aimless as you're going about living day to day. You start to realize there are things that you can control and influence, and that became that hard and soft trend discussion that you were having there. So the point that I wanted to bring this to is that in the accounting profession, you're giving a good example of how we need to be embracing these technologies and not be fearful of them. Just like you explained, the calculator, Google search, you've got Chat-GPT. It's what can we use to leverage that? And there's good examples of how in the accounting profession, people are taking this technology and helping automate things, helping analyze things, using the information to maybe get a better understanding of how it affects our clients, the numbers and trends we're identifying. So where I wanted to go with this is I think emotionally, we can bring in a conversation about whether or not being a realist, an optimist, or a pessimist helps in these conversations, because these things are going on around us all the time. You brought in opportunity and said opportunity, especially with trends, is the thing that makes everything exciting. But how do we keep the right emotional stance that we don't come anxious or frustrated, but rather we see as an opportunist the things before us?
Yeah, very good. Well, you brought up pessimism and optimism, and let me say that I'm a cautious optimist. Now, what I mean by that is pessimists, well, they never do anything. Why? Well, they know it'll fail. Optimists are the ones that actually make things happen, but they temper their optimism with research and finding out, what are the tools and strategies that they can implement. So one of the things that I think we need to do is let me give you the three categories of hard trends, because it's not that difficult. In other words, one of my gifts is taking amazing complexity and simplifying it so that you can get clarity and move forward. So let me give you the benefit of my 40 years at this right now for your listeners to see that it's not that difficult. The three categories of hard trends, remember, these are the future facts. This is where you can find not 20 or 30, thousands of certainty hard trends that relate to accounting. All right, here's the categories. Number one, demographics. Let's take this country, for example, the United States. We've got 78 million baby boomers, and we know chronologically, age-wise, they're not going to get younger. We know they're going to get older. And we can predict a lot of problems and let them play out, or we can let them, or we can pre-solve them. For example, will we have more people continuing to retire in our field? Well, yes. As a matter of fact, we can actually identify who they are. And in many cases, we can even put a date on it. And so let me give you a trend and show you how hard and soft works in a firm. Hard trend or soft? Many will be retiring over the next 2 and 3 years, taking their knowledge and wisdom with them. Now, here's the key. I'm giving you an advanced class right now. And that is, there's actually two trends there. If you have a comma or the word and in a statement, you probably got two trends. So let's break it apart. Over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have many people retiring. By the way, that's the hard trend part. Yeah, for sure, guaranteed. All right. And there's the key. They'll take their knowledge and wisdom with them. Well, that's a soft trend. Well, you can let them take their knowledge and wisdom with them. However, because you could change that, that's a soft trend. We could not just have a database. We could have a knowledge base and a wisdom base. We could start doing some mentoring. We could do some things to capture that knowledge and wisdom before they leave. You see what I'm getting at? So it gives you some abilities. It gives you the ability to look ahead and see. If I can clearly see that AI is going to be doing more and more of the actual audit, more and more of the actual tax, and by the way, it will. So therefore, what do I do as an accounting firm and how do I grow? Well, my goodness, you're going to be not just a historian, making sure that the past up to the present is accurate, but you're going to be also looking at strategically ahead with those clients and helping them to giving them let's call it anticipatory advice based on what you can see going forward. So in other words, you're not just looking at the past, you're helping them look ahead with your very skills that you have. In other words, they're all going to be doing a lot more advising. And
I love this.
and secondly, we're going to be not just, let's take a look at how much we bill for time. Let's just take that for a second. Technology is letting me do things faster and faster and faster all the time. So if I bill for time, I'm going to predictably make less money. And if I keep charging the same rates, I'll lose clients because they know it's taking you less time. We're going to get somebody else. So what we need to do is look at billing for value and billing for time. Instead of just saying, I'm switching over to billing for value, which would be a tough switch. One of the things that I teach is the both and principle, which means the future isn't one thing or the other, it's both. So I want to ask myself, what are the things that are logical for me to start billing for value versus time and start bringing those in first as we start having both instead of just one? My point of that is predictably, billing for time is going to be a problem going forward. And you can either, remember, pre-solve a predictable problem now or let it play out. I don't think you want to let it play out. And that's where we want to be. And I used the word anticipatory a little while ago. You know that my last book number 7, was called The Anticipatory Organization. And what I want all of us to do in this profession is to be less reactionary and more anticipatory by using this hard trend, soft trend methodology, because agility is a reactionary strategy. It's reacting as quickly as you can after disruption disrupts, reacting as quickly as you can after a problem happens. But because things are speeding up at exponential rates, everything is, agility is becoming less valuable to us. We need another skill, a new skill, and that is how to be anticipatory. Again, anticipate disruptions before they disrupt. Chat-GPT is going to get more powerful. Well, how can I use it right now to save money right now in my firm right now? By the way, you can, and we can get into that if you'd like.
Yep.
Or not.
Well, let me just jump in here. I'm liking how you're addressing agility, the ability to adapt to the situations as they're coming at us so much more quickly, and we're needing to be more agile. But I love the anticipatory element that you brought into it, that the better we're able to look down the road, see into the future, it helps us actually better prepare and adapt more quickly. So let's bring that into the accounting world. You were alluding to how we need to become more advisory in our services. We need to be doing more planning, preparing financials, and looking into the future with forecasting and budgeting. And I believe that is exactly what our clients are going to be asking of us. They want to be able to hear from us things that they need to be anticipating in their business as it relates to cash flow, growth projections, lending, the necessity for growth opportunities. All of these things are what they're going to be leaning on us to know, when am I going to have the cash, the means to make these changes in my business? And as we are accounting professionals, we step into that advisory role to give that insight. We're going to be the ones that can be the futurists. We can predict, if you will, what those hard trends are that the client should know about their business, their industry, as well as the soft trends as it applies to their companies. And the better we're able to as accounting professionals, give those insights and help them actually foresee the future, be that fortune teller, we're going to be able to help our clients adapt and be agile in those situations that they experience. So we become that much more of a necessity in the success of that business. Now, you brought up, obviously, are utilizing Chat-GPT. So I'm going to ask a question. You've used that phrase a few times.
Wait, let me stop you right there, because I want to get to Chat-GPT in just a minute, but you made a very important point, Roger, that I want to put an exclamation point on. And that is this: you are either going to be the disruptor or the disrupted. There is no longer a middle. You are either going to be more relevant or less relevant. There is no middle anymore. Because we're at this unique point in human history that we're at right now. So what I want to do is coasting is no longer an option. Let's face it, with accounting firms, what do we do? Well, there's probably about a 4-month period close to tax time where we can't do anything strategic. It's just heads down, get everything done. And so that means already we're not really transforming and doing the things at the rate that we need to be doing. We need to keep that element. Obviously, we have to get our work done. But if all we're doing is crisis managing and taking care of today, we neglect tomorrow in a period of transformative change. And so I don't want us to be neglecting that. So we need to have some time. Let me give you, so that we don't miss this, let me give everyone what I'd like them to do after they hear this podcast. All right. I would
Please.
like you to spend, because I don't want you to be just crisis managers. And I've worked with many different types of firms, as you know, but I've worked with accounting firms. I've worked with the biggest of the big as well as different size ones. And we tend to be more crisis managers than opportunity managers. So what I'd like us to do is 1 hour a week. By the way, 1 hour is doable. I'd like you to unplug from the present and plug into your future. Why? That's where you're going to spend the rest of your life. Maybe you ought to think about it. And it's not going to look like the past. And in that hour, I'd like you to create a little list of not the things you're uncertain about. Why don't you start making a list of the things you are absolutely certain about that relate to your client, that relate to the industry, that will relate to technological change and its impact, that relate to Chat-GPT, things like that. Make a list of what you are certain about, those hard trends, and remember, tie an opportunity to it. And then you'll get a list. And what I'd like you to do is big lists never get done. If you could find one thing in there to act on now, because the cost of not acting on it is greater than the cost of acting on it. Now, that's a big one. The cost of not doing it is too great compared to the cost of doing it, meaning the time and the money to do it. Why? Because you know it's going to happen anyway, and if I don't do it, the competitors will. I'll become less relevant. My firm will be less relevant. We will get disrupted if we don't do this. So pick one and make it happen. Hour a week is your hour of power. Put it in your calendar, mark it down, and if you're smart, you'll get your team together and take a look at that. And you will find that as powerful. So I just wanted to make sure we got in here's what I'd like you to do before we go any further.
I appreciate it because at the beginning you started with the fact that we needed to listen to this podcast with the intent of now doing something different. We needed to disrupt our own lives. And now you've given us a call to action to set aside in our calendar time that we can literally sit for a moment and speculate on what it is that we need to be considering as those hard trends that we can plan for. And I think I would add to what you've shared that not only are we doing it for our own business, but we're taking our insights, what we understand about our clients, and thinking of them, what things should we be bringing to their attention that they need to be preparing for, that we can kind of bring their attention to. And I feel if we do that, we're not only meeting the needs of our own business, but our clients, and we are remaining relevant to their needs. So very, very important there. Time is passing quickly here with this. So Daniel, what I wanted to do is I didn't want to ask about Chat-GPT. You've said it a few times, Copilot. There's a few other technologies out there that are coming to market. What I wanted to ask is Chat-GPT is already on version 4. It's evolving so quickly, and you did say it correctly, exponentially here is what's happening with all of this. We've been talking about AI for probably 5-10 years in the accounting space, and I finally feel we're at this pivotal moment where tomorrow will not be like yesterday. But what I want to ask you is this one question: what are we not seeing that we should be aware of? What are the blinders hiding from us about all of this that we should know?
Well, those are really important questions. We've got, talking about hard trends, we just have GDP 4 right now, 4.0.
That's right.
Is that it?
No.
No, they're going to have 5.0, 6.0. By the way, when we're at the 5 and 6.0, it's like, oh my goodness, It's giant.
Well, it's exponential. It's like an earthquake. When you look at an earthquake, a 4.0 is not just a market increase to a 5.0. It's 1,000 times larger, if I understand the calculation correctly. That 5.0 over the 4.0. It's huge, the difference. And so when you look at Chat-GPT going from version 4 to version 5, we're talking about such an exponential improvement in the capability of it that to be on 4 already is incredible.
All right, so let me help everyone out with what we have to look at here. First of all, if you, and I'm surprised that so many leaders of firms and businesses of all sizes, I'm talking about the C-suite, they have not personally tried it yet. I'm shocked, but I asked, like I said, I was just with 10,000 in the education field, but I was also just with 1,000 CEOs and in a variety of fields just this last week as well. Speaking to them, asked for a show of hands, how many of you have actually personally tried it? I got 2 out of 1,000. So here's my point. You need to go and do this now. And to get 4.0 access, you got to pay $20 a month. Do it. Pay the $20 a month. Get it right now and start playing with it. And what do? Well, it's all about what I'd call the prompt, the question you ask it. And here's what I'd like you to try. Why don't you ask it something like, list the ways that generative AI and Chat-GPT can be used by an accounting firm to gain new competitive advantage. Just put that in and see what it does. You see where I'm going with this?
Love it. No, you're doing great.
And it's about asking a better question. Now, here's what I want everyone to know about it, because I do want to spend a few minutes on ChatGPT, because I'm an advisor on AI to, again, the military and to companies around the world. So I've got a lot of expertise in AI that some of it I can't even tell you. And what I would say is that it is, number one, it's about the prompts. So get better at looking at prompts and do a little search on what? Google? No. Google's getting disrupted by their search engine. Their $1 trillion search engine is getting made less relevant by ChatGPT. So, so what I'd like you to do is use ChatGPT and ask it questions like, tell me the different types of prompts. What are the best types of prompts to do? That will help you a lot. Secondly, there are companies now creating AI tools for specific purposes.
Yes.
And there's something new that is part of this ChatGPT 4.0. They're now giving you a ability to put an API. In other words, a connection to your data on it.
Yep.
So that you can be using this giant, it's $1 billion system for free in your small firm.
Yeah, let me jump in on that. I want to touch on 2 things. One, when you were talking about the prompts that you're using to actually ask ChatGPT the questions, you are so accurate as pointing out that our ability to ask the right questions, the prompts, is exactly what we need to be enhancing as our own skill set, because the better the question, the better the answer. And then as you're talking about this integration to data sets, using the AI to actually interpret and analyze data sets, this is powerful when you consider that you can actually take and input Excel spreadsheets, numbers, P&Ls, things that we have historical data of, and using that information, ask the AI to identify trends that are going on within the business that we're not necessarily seeing, and it can actually go so much deeper, so much faster, identify those things that we can then utilize as we communicate with our clients. So I just wanted to quickly share that. So keep going, please.
Yeah. For example, let's say that banks and credit unions are one of your big clients in your firm. So what would you do before meeting with them? Well, you would use ChatGPT and ask, what are the ways a whatever size, mid-size credit union could use ChatGPT to gain competitive advantage? Number one. Number two, what are the ways a mid-size credit union will get disrupted by ChatGPT? And make a list and be specific. And again, those are simple answers. You could get even more specific about it, again, in that prompt. So there's that. there is getting good with prompts, and that's a key to it. And also looking at the API connection. The other thing is, and this is good to understand, whatever you ask it, know that it'll get you 85% there fast. How fast? 20 seconds or so. But you're not 100%.
Yes.
It's coming from the internet. There's going to be disinformation and misinformation as well.
Yes.
So what you need to do on that last bit of percent beyond the 85 is you need to review it, check it, verify it, especially in the accounting field. I mean, your trust is because of accuracy, and you need to be accurate. You need to maintain your trust. So there's that. And then you need to personalize it because Chat-GPT is a machine, and you need to make it personal. Now, so if you're writing marketing copy for your firm, and by the way, it's really good at marketing, you get specific in your prompt on how to market. And by the way, who are you marketing it to? Well, get specific about who you're marketing it to. Or if you're writing a blog, who is it specifically for? And have it make that for you, and then go through, and it'll already get you there super fast. So are we getting rid of all of our marketing people? No, they better be using chat. Are we getting rid of our accountants? No, they better be learning to use these tools. And of course, you know that Microsoft is integrating this into Bing, and Google's coming out with theirs. So here's the thing you need to understand right now. What has happened since November of last year, which is when this was released? It opened up a floodgate. Now, the technology was already there. They just released it to the world for free. Now, that's the big deal. And now, of course, they're monetizing it with the $20 a month, et cetera, et cetera. But my point is, this point in time, what they're doing with AI is as big as launching the World Wide Web for the first time. It's as big as the first iPhone, the first smartphone. It's tectonic. It's like once in a decade or two, we get something giant that happens. My friends, the giant thing has just happened. And,
Amen.
And instead of, holy cow, listen, I was just talking to a CEO, and after seeing what was going on, she said, her reaction was, well, I got to tell you, I've just decided I got to sell my business and fast. That was her reaction. But after we talked a little bit further, she started seeing the new revenue streams, the new opportunities to elevate, and what she could do at not spending a lot of money. And she started to realize, wow, actually, there's more to make in the near future than there was ever in the past. And so our first reaction as in our accounting field is to be threatened by it and to hold tight and just hope the whole thing will blow over or it won't bother us, but it won't. Instead, what I want us to do is to embrace the opportunity of it, to start learning, start playing with this stuff, start using it. And if you go to, matter of fact, I'm going to be doing an article soon. You can always find mine on LinkedIn, or because I'm there. You can go to burrus.com and do a search on the thousands of blogs I've written on this, and I'm about to do one on the keys to writing prompts and all that. Hey, it doesn't cost you any money. I'm giving you something free to do. As a matter of fact, if you go to burrus.com, burrus.com, and just scroll down a little bit, on that first page, you can get my 25 technology hard trends shaping the future list. And again, you don't have to know how they work. It doesn't cost you any money to do that. You don't have to know how they work. You have to be aware. You can't use something if you don't even know it exists. And then you have to creatively apply it. So there's some ways that you can go beyond this podcast to learn more from me if you're interested, or again, start using it. Start playing with it now. Don't wait.
Daniel, I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to thank you, first of all, for all this. We've had a phenomenal discussion, and I do need to wrap it up. But here's what I'd like to do is I'm going to summarize everything that we've kind of discussed here and see if I can bring some closure to it. And then I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. And before I begin, I do want to encourage everyone to go to the episode description, and I will put there a link for you to be able to get the Daniel Burrus Top 25 Technology Hard Trends Shaping 2023 so that you can find it. And from there, you'll be able to actually get also access to his other blog posts. Now, with the summary, I have to start by, first of all, just reminding everyone there is a human component to all of this. We do need to realize that we're not being replaced anytime soon, and that the better we can embrace this, we can be the disruptors rather than the disrupted. And one of the things that I think is so important is the idea that there is a lot more that's certain in life than death and taxes. We have to recognize that we do have a lot of things that we can sit down, and if we just take a little bit of time, as Daniel suggested we do each and every week, we can identify those things within our business as well as for our clients that are on the horizon, things that we can plan for. And rather than just be agile and adjust, we can be a little bit more predictive and anticipate those things with a little bit more certainty so that we can be the optimist because we are confident as to what we've done to prepare for these changes. I loved how we talked about technology, embracing it with regards to taking these various AI tools, whichever they may be. The tool that the key that I'd like to take away from this is the fact that our ability to ask it the right questions and give it direction, it directly then determines how beneficial it will be to us as we use it. So become great question askers, and then you're going to be able to find the benefits that you're looking for in utilizing these tools. The other thing that I'd like to also just point out is with an optimistic attitude, you can do, as he last pointed out, find opportunities in all of these things, because I do know that there are some people that are scared or afraid. This puts them into a state of paralysis, and those individuals freeze. And as accounting professionals, we need for our clients to be individuals that are optimistic and help them realize how these things are to their benefit. And all of a sudden, we become that positive influence in helping them grow their companies. So love the conversation today. Daniel, what is a final thought that you would like to actually share?
Well, the key is to become what I would call a positive disruptor, creating the transformations that need to happen in your firm and in the way you work to increase your relevancy and accelerate growth. And that means you need to take some action. So remember, 1 hour a week, that's your hour of power. That's your opportunity hour. This is a unique point in history. You don't want to squander it, and start looking at what are those hard trend certainties and related opportunities. Bring it down to one action. Take one, the must-do list. The cost of the no is too great, and make it happen.
Beautiful. Daniel, thank you for your time today. Everyone, this has been amazing. And I want to encourage you again to go check out the episode description where you'll find these resources. You'll also find that you can get some additional free resources from that interface that you can utilize as you're running your business. I also want to invite you to GrowCon. If you haven't registered yet, this is an annual event we do for owners of accounting, bookkeeping, tax businesses to actually put on the stage the experts that you need to be listening to, give you a chance to visit with your peers, and obviously find the time to work on your business. You don't want to miss it. It's each and every May, and we're looking forward to meeting, seeing you, and invite you to attend that. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. As you can tell, we have on each and every week excellent guests that are experts in their own right to help us work on our businesses. Subscribe, listen to this. Past episodes are available for you to also hear. So as you subscribe, definitely set your reminders so that you can get notified of those different releases that we have each and every week, and go back and binge the previous episodes that we've had of so many other excellent guests that you'll want to hear. In addition to this, if you'd like to apply these principles in your business, if you'd like to ask more questions, feel free to reach out to us here at Universal Accounting. You can visit us at universalaccountingschool.com, or you can actually go and call us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day and be safe out there.